Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 2. My choice then for horror comedies is Fright Night.
Fright Night.
I kind of wanted to relate it to Renfield a bit. I was like, there's got to be some sort of horror comedy related to like vampires out there somewhere. And I kind of wanted to go older again. I do like covering the older films at the moment. But I mean, there are quite a lot of good recent ones out there, like Ready or Not, the like hide and seek game they play just before her wedding in that film. That's great. It's a great funny gag right at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Freaky, the body swap film where Vince Vaughn swaps bodies with Catherine Newton.
Yeah.
In a slasher comedy there.
That would have been interesting to do, because I quite liked the look of the trailer for that one when that came out. And
also The Cabin in the Woods, the Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon film from like 2011, I think. Where a lot of craziness happens in that one.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some other ones that I've seen trailers of like recently. Ones there was one. Was it called Sitter or Babysitter or something? It's like an evil babysitter.
Oh yeah.
That looked quite funny. Although I haven't watched it, so I don't know. And what was another one where they're stuck in like a movie?
What, The Final Girls?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, Final Girls.
Yeah, I've got that actually. Yeah, I did think about that briefly.
Is that any good?
Yeah, it's all right. They kind of they all go out to a film and they all get kind of sucked into the screen.
Yeah.
And they have to figure out how not to die in the film, within a film. Yeah, that's a lot of fun as well. And also kind of related to the title of our podcast, I was almost picked this as well. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Another cabin film. Have you seen that?
I've seen clips of it, but I haven't watched it.
Tucker and Dale they're like hillbillies and they own this cabin, and these like young, hot teenagers think they're, killers, cannibals or whatever. One by one, they accidentally kill themselves when they're trying to help, and they still think they're trying to kill them. And there's one bit where a guy finds a revolver and he's like, "Oh, I've got the safety on. I'll turn it around and accidentally shoot myself." That was a bit weird, but someone accidentally falls into a wood chipper, and Tucker and Dale try and pull them out. I'm like, it's a lost cause, man.
Yeah, I've seen that clip because he's trying to pull him out, and they think he's pushing him in. Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my god.
But yeah, ultimately, I went with Fright Night. Yeah, I've not seen this one before. I've heard a lot of things about it, and it's directed by Tom Holland. No, not Spider-Man. The horror director, Tom Holland.
I was going to say, like, he would be like a fetus if he directed this. It was in 85.
Well, not even thought about, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's interesting with this one because it kind of blends a lot of like the universal horror vampires and the Hammer horror style, certainly in Peter Vincent's character in Fright Night, and it's no accident that he's called Peter Vincent, as in Peter Cushing and Vincent Price. But kind of mixing it with this kind of 80s sensibility as well, which I kind of really liked. A lot of great practical effects in there as well. In the makeup too. So I thought that was a lot of great stuff. So what happens in Fright Night then? Well, a character called Charlie Brewster, played by William Ragsdale, and he's making out with his girlfriend, Amy Peterson, played by Amanda Bursey, and he notices a coffin has been taken to the next door neighbor's house at night, and he obviously thinks that's really weird, and he's also into this TV show called Fright Night, which Peter Vincent hosts these kind of like horror stories, which is kind of really cool. Kind of like Tales from the Crypt, I guess. And he kind of sees these women. Well, he sees one of them gets murdered and hears someone get murdered as well from next door. And Jerry Dandridge, the vampire played by Chris Sarandon, kind of sees him in the hedge, sees Charlie in the hedge because he thinks something's up. So he kind of goes over to his house because his mum invited him in, because obviously he's a vampire and he has to be invited in.
Yeah.
And then later, Dandridge basically says, like, leave me alone. Just let me be a vampire and I'll leave you alone. So then he goes to the cops and like, there's a vampire next door. And obviously no one will believe him. So his friends don't really believe him as well. Evil Ed and Amy.
Oh, I just got the joke. Evil Ed, Evil Dead. I only just got that.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Carry on.
So he enlists the help of the TV vampire killer, the actor Peter Vincent, which is obviously not his real name. It's just his stage name. So then Amy convinces Peter Vincent to help Charlie in finding out whether he's a vampire or not. But obviously Amy pays Peter Vincent money, so they're all kind of in on the joke kind of thing. We know that he's a vampire. Charlie knows that he's a vampire, etc. So, but then Peter Vincent sees that there's no reflection in his mirror of Jerry. So then he's like, shit, he's a vampire, an actual one. Then runs out scared. And then it kind of goes on from there. And Jerry has the hots for Amy, very Dracula-style-y. And they end up trying to rescue Amy. And the film goes from there, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like in this film. There really is. There is some disappointments. There is some frustrations for me in terms of the fact that, like, some of the comedy stuff doesn't quite land for me as much as it could have done, I don't think. But yeah, I think in one aspect of these categories that we go through, it really excels, and in others it doesn't. But yeah, on the whole, I quite like this one. How about you, sir?
No, I really liked it. I would say, yeah, I think I kind of agree. Like, the comedy isn't like laugh out loud. Yeah, I can't really remember that many funny bits, actually. So I don't think, So yeah, like, on reflection, I can remember so much comedy on The Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. I can't really remember too many jokes on this one. I know it does have a sense that it's not that serious. And I think there were jokes, but I think I agree with you. Most of them,
I think so,
kind of go over your head. Yeah. I think most of them go over. So in the comedy department, maybe not really, but other than that, like, the acting was really great, especially by the guy who's the vampire. I think he is incredible.
Chris Sarandon.
He was good. He was just so good. The visual effects, I just fucking loved them, like, so much. Like, yeah, the costumes, they're just so good. You know, the puppetry, just everything. It's so good and, like, really inventive. So I adored that. I really did.
Great poster as well of this film, with like this vampire cloud above this house with a massive grin on this vampire.
Oh yeah,
which ends up being Amy. Great poster.
Yeah, but no, the costumes for the vampires and stuff. Oh my god, and they just get more and more like, elaborate and crazy, and it's really great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So, directing then, I like the opening scene where all you hear is like really bad dialogue from the inside of this house, with like some sort of seduction scene going on, and the camera is like floating around the house like it's a slasher film, which were very popular at the time. Then you realize it's a vampire show on TV in a teenager's bedroom, and it's like a very like hammer horror style thing. Then you realize these are teenagers kissing, and the sound effects are really loud. So I thought, they overdid it a bit there. It was like, I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's like he's drinking her blood. Yeah,
bit too much there, sound mixer.
yeah.
But I enjoyed kind of this mix of tones right off the bat to keep you guessing what this film actually is. You know, is it a slasher film? Is it a vampire film? Is it something completely different? You can't really grasp. Is it just a weird, schlocky horror comedy. Probably what it is in the end anyway. But yeah, it's just kind of a weird mix of tones with just like with this 80s sensibility of this very floaty camera, but like it's just weird TV show and kids kissing and stuff. So it was kind of interesting start, like a rom-com it could have been. So I quite like that opening. Really, I really liked it when skipping basically right through to the near the end. I really liked it when like Evil Ed turns into a wolf and attacks Peter Vincent, even though it's like still strange seeing a vampire turn into a wolf. I don't really know where kind of the lore comes from there, but
it's actually from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, we saw that a bit in that film when we covered it in January.
Yeah, in the actual book, he turns into wolves and stuff, and he can. So actually, like the bats thing isn't really played that big in the original book, but I think since then bats have become more associated with vampires and not wolves.
But when he dives at Peter Vincent, he stabs him with a broken table leg and the wolf collides with the chandelier. The transformation from wolf to dead human was brilliant.
Yeah.
Like the complete reverse of the American Werewolf in London sequence. And I kind of wanted a little more, I guess. Like you get one hand transform, 1 foot change, and a few shots of like the full body, but it still looked amazing with the practical effects. They were so well done for me.
Yeah, no, I love that transformation. I think it's probably one of my favorite parts in the film. Yeah, the wolf transformation, it was really good. And yeah, just the amount of different costumes that they used, they have like a large wolf costume that's like dragging itself along, in pain.
Yeah.
And then I love that where the paws change and then like the hand or foot or something like is healing from like the injuries and stuff.
It's kind of like melts away.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah, it melts into a hand and it was like, whoa. And then how he looks in between. And it's still pretty intense because he's still struggling. It really does. And I love how Peter Vincent? He's trying to pull. He's going to pull out the stake, and it's still so tense because I'm like, "Don't touch it, you moron!" It could be a trap. And then he transforms into a human, and then also the crossburn evaporates.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that was great.
Did you want more from that sequence, or is it just right for you?
I think it was fine for me. Yeah. I quite liked it.
Yeah. I guess I was feeling greedy in that moment. I wanted more gore.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if you compare it to American Werewolf in London, like that's a pretty long and in-depth transformation. So
yeah, that's top tier, isn't it?
That is top tier. That is really top tier. I doubt there are really any sort of werewolf or whatever movies that have topped that sort of thing.
I liked how it's teased throughout the film using like these POV shots that Jerry Dandridge can transform into some sort of creature. Like he flies around near the start when he finds Charlie in the hedge. There's a few shots where he's flying around the house too. Then at the end, when the sun comes up and you see him finally as this bat creature, which looked pretty cool, nice and gruesome. But before you know it, he's gone back into his coffin. And I feel like it didn't deliver with such a big build-up.
Absolutely. So I think there were two things that I didn't like about the bat transformation. One, I think you're right. It was pretty brief. And he doesn't even get killed as the bat creature. Like he goes off into a coffin, and you got a different transformation, but you're teasing us all the time with the fact that he can fly. He turns into something else that you can't see throughout the rest of the movie. And I'm particularly reminded also by the scene in the alleyway just before he transforms Ed as well. Like you've got this up, from above as he's just flying and like down again.
Lands on the fire escape.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always teasing you with this other form. So two things I didn't like. One, the look of the creature looked pretty cool, but to me it was way too small. It's just way too small. Yeah. Like this is like it's meant to be like a top tier transformation that they've kept hidden. And you've seen him in all kinds of forms for
the entire film.
Yeah, exactly. But you've seen him through all kinds of forms, like with giant fangs and like gruesome scowls and that bit where he just screamed and like So you've got all of this really cool stuff, and you're teasing that there's some final form of his. And you met with this bat thing, and I was just underwhelmed that it looks cool, but it's like a small dog, It's like a puppy. It's not. I was thinking it was going to be like fucking 8 foot tall or something like that. That would have been really scary.
Yeah.
Even just that design, but like 7 foot or something, would have been great.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing that was pretty underwhelming.
I guess maybe more people would have noticed him if he was that big, but
yeah, who cares? Like, I think it would have been cooler if they made it a little bigger, because that's one of the things I was noting while they're struggling with it and like stabbing it, and it's green ooze, and I'm like, man, this looks cool. But dude, if that thing was bigger, this would be much better.
Because they could easily like grab it and throw it and stuff. So
exactly, yeah. You're like, this isn't really. To be honest, he's more threatening, even though he looks less cool. He's more threatening as a vampire because he has the height advantage on them
in human form. Yeah,
yeah. Where he can like lift them with ease, and he's got the height advantage. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why he would turn into that. So yeah, I would have wanted that thing to be a lot bigger. And then number two. They defeat him in that form very quickly, and then he turns into a different form. I don't really understand the point of that, really.
I guess in this film, there's an awful lot of nods to the Hammer horror films and the Universal films with Bela Lugosi. I mean, you mentioned the alleyway sequence when Evil Ed gets bitten. Like, literally, Jerry Dandridge holds up his coat to cover up Evil Ed. That is pure Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, that was good.
In the 30s from the Universal Dracula. But also, in the Hammer horrors and Universal films, like the bats in those things are very small and very puppetry. And when they do turn into bats in those films, very crude stuff. But I guess they were kind of riffing on that as well. So they didn't want to make it too big. But like we have covered Bram Stoker's Dracula in the past as well. And when he turns into a massive bat thing, that looks fucking impressive. I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite part in the whole movie. That was great. Yeah, if he had turned into something like that, that would have been much better.
So I feel like they were kind of playing a little bit of an homage to the Hammer and Universal stuff there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I do love the vampire designs, many of them. I like also towards the end where his girlfriend, she's trying to trick him to drop the cross. It's like, oh, Charlie, this is not my fault. You said you'd protect me. And he drops the cross. And then when she removes her hand, the face, holy shit. That was pretty damn scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a damn good face.
Yeah, that did give me some chills down my spine. I was like, oh.
Yeah. And many of the prosthetics that they put on the main vampire guy, they just look really good. Yeah, it's just really scary.
Then with the final showdown in the basement, it felt a tad underwhelming. I like the idea that Charlie and Peter break the blackened glass windows, and beams of sunshine hurts Jerry. But then there's a moment where Peter is cornered by Jerry near the coffin, and Charlie just walks right past Jerry to remove the curtain to kill Jerry. That didn't look or feel believable to me in that moment, that Charlie can just walk past Jerry to do that. Even with like Jerry's death scene felt a tad disappointing. There was like a lot of lighting effects to make it feel really big, but when your sidekick's death scene is better, there's a big problem there.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, like when you talked about his death scene, I couldn't even remember his death scene.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. It was a lot more underwhelming than his sidekick, who had an incredible death scene, unloading with bullets and then a stake, and oh man, just how he kind of just sort of melts, and there's like green, and it just added flood, and then he just melts to a skeleton. That was a phenomenal death.
Yeah. So I think that is a problem, when the fact that you literally just said, I don't remember Jerry's death scene. He's the main vampire.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge problem. Yeah, I to be honest, they should have replaced death scenes. Like, the bad guy needed to die in the way that his henchmen died. Like, that was perfect. And they put it on the wrong person. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that is actually my favourite shot, actually, with Billy Cole dying. Because throughout the whole film, you don't even realize he's a vampire. You just think he's a human slave.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a bit where like he's walking up the stairs, he doesn't say anything, and Peter Vince is like, I'll shoot you. And he literally just shoots him in the head. You're like, oh, okay, he's dead. Definitely. Because there's enough drama in the scene to make you think, yeah, this guy is dead.
Yeah.
And then there's a great shot, this classic shot where you have Peter and Charlie at the top of the stairs and in the foreground of the camera shot, and you see Billy Cole, you know, rise up, sitting up. And then obviously Peter Vincent loads him with bullets. And then do they stake him?
Yeah, they do. They stake him. Yeah, they stake him in the heart.
Oh, Charlie does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then like loads of green ooze comes out of him, superbly gruesome. And it did make me feel like, are you an ill vampire or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Love that. That's my favorite shot for sure.
That was good. That was a damn good death. And I think that was amazing.
I'll just say like that was my favorite shot, my favorite scene in directing, but not my favorite scene as a whole.
Yeah.
Not even close.
I also like actually when they were unloading on him because it was like smoke powder, so it was all white every time. Like there was a puff of white every time they shot him. And I do like that when he kind of is out of bullets and it's all just white. And then you know, they're looking intensely and then you can hear the footsteps and then he comes out of the smoke because that was really badass.
What's your favorite shot or scene, Boaz?
I think it would have to be his death scene. I think that was phenomenal.
Yeah, Billy Cole.
Yeah. And also I like the first transformation of the vampire when he's in his bedroom and like is hurling him through furniture. And then what was it? He gets stabbed in the hand or whatever, and then just how he transforms. I really fucking like that, where it's just like, you know. I was like, man, that's so good. How the hell did they do that?
Directing score, Boaz, what are you going for Fright Night?
Man, this was so much fun. Oh, I go like maybe an 8.9.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's high.
Yeah, actually, no, an 8.8, I think. 8.8. Yeah.
Okay. I got in his head a little bit there. But...
yeah, but still really good. Only a half of, fraction of a point. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's really good too. Again, it's a great advocate for practical effects. We were kind of discussing this a little bit in our last episode with The Thing. Like, there is an argument to say a lot of these kind of effects do feel kind of similar in some aspects with the texture kind of thing. But here, I think there's enough of a difference, especially with like Billy Cole's death scene, that this does feel really unique. Yeah. And the transformation from wolf to human with Evil Ed felt unique. There's enough uniqueness here, certainly in this point in cinema, that feels great and brilliant. So, but again, there are some issues, I think, with, as you said, the bat. So I wouldn't go as high as 8.8. So, but I'll go like 8. I'll go 8.7, I think. Splitting hairs. Right, screenplay then. I think one of my main problems with the film is that it's not that funny.
Yeah.
You have a few funny lines from like Charlie's mum, and Peter Vincent has his moments, but again, not that many really. And I would have thought there would be more funny moments in the second half of the film, but it's more of a straight up horror film, which I don't mind, but I don't think it lives up to the billing in my research that it was a horror comedy. But I think what they were kind of going for is the fact that certainly with like the Peter Vincent character, he's a bit of a don't want to say ridiculous character, but a larger than life character that, you know, he's an actor from a TV show going into a so-called real life situation with vampires. I think they were definitely trying to play with humor and comedy there, but I don't think a lot of that stuff worked as well as it thinks it does.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
With that character especially.
Yeah, like the fact that he's really cowardly, that's played on quite a lot. But I think you're right. It doesn't come across as like that funny. It comes across as like thinking it's funny. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with that. And that does seem to be the most of the jokes, actually. It's just like, and even like the police officers where they don't believe. I thought that could have been done for laughs a lot better. You know, where they're just like, oh, you know, he's a vampire. Yeah. And I'm, what does he say? Dirty Harry or something. I was like, man, that's not that funny. I was like, you could have done something better.
Yeah. You could have picked a better 70s character.
Yeah. It could have said like I'm Arnie Schwarzenegger or something like that.
Mickey Mouse or something.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse or something.
Like Dirty Harry is not that larger than life. Dirty Harry is cool, man.
Exactly.
Like, I wouldn't mind being Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
He's putting himself down big time.
Well, anyway, one of the things I was mentioning was the Burbs.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I do like this film, but I wish it approached it more from the style of the Burbs.
Okay.
With Tom Hanks, because like he really thinks there's a family of serial killers, or what's that other film that we did? Where he's looking through a telescope and he thinks there's a murderer next door.
Rear Window.
So I wish they did it sort of like that, where you're left like not knowing whether the character is actually out of his mind, the main one, until later.
Oh, right.
I think they establish it way too quickly that there's just flat out a vampire next door. It's not even up for debate. So this is why when he's trying to convince the cop and his friends and Vincent, to me, I feel like it's just wasting time. It's like, dude, we know this guy's a vampire. So I would have approached it differently and just do you kind of get what I mean?
A cool one though.
Yeah, but do you get what I mean? So I would sort of make it that the guy thinks he's a vampire. There are some clues that he's a vampire, but that the audience hasn't had it spelt out that he's a vampire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it spells it out that he's a vampire way too early. I would have basically had him try to convince his friends. Everybody thinks he's insane. Then, they learn along with him for definite that he is a fucking vampire, I think I would have approached it that way.
Then don't you have to sacrifice a lot of Chris Sarandon's screen time, though?
Yeah, no, that's true.
You would have to hide him a lot, which I think would be a disappointment.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he could still be... so you remember in... what was it? What the hell's wrong with me?
No, I've never heard of that one. No.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The greater good and all that stuff.
Oh, Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz, yeah. So Hot Fuzz, he thinks that the head of is it Waitrose or whatever is evil. He has plenty of scenes with him before it's established.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you can do that they're interacting, and then there's a sort of villain back and forth, like hood and wink. I know you're onto me, and sort of thing, without him like flat out just revealing his hand that he's a vampire. So I think when he breaks into his house and like shows off his vampire powers, I wouldn't have done that until like anything like that until way later in the film. Yeah, maybe even just a half an hour in, and just have all of his friends become skeptical. His mother's skeptical. Everybody's skeptical. Then that makes the audience start to think, maybe he's actually out of his mind. I just like that in film. I know that's overdone, but I like that in films when they do that, where it does feel like this guy's on his own and he's starting to question his sanity, and then it's revealed, oh no, this guy actually is a vampire. I think maybe they just wanted to do it differently, but otherwise I just find it's kind of a waste of time trying to convince the side characters, because I'm like, dude, just get it already. You become more frustrated at them, really. You're like, just hurry up so we can move along and you can find out he's a vampire, and so we can get the film going.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a massive problem with it. I get what you're saying, but I feel like with that, I think the issues with me is not that whether he's a vampire or not, is like it's the relationship with him and Amy's character. I feel like Amy is the character that's not really you don't really have a massive handle on whether she thinks he's a vampire until a lot later on, and whether she believes Charlie or not. And I feel like they could have played on that a lot more.
Yeah, no, I agree
that
with
relationship between Charlie and Amy, whether Amy believes Charlie that Charlie is saying, hello, this guy is a vampire, stay away from him.
Yeah,
but they don't, I don't think, as much as they could have.
No, they don't really, because what was it? She's skeptical, but when, after he's turned Evil Ed, he just immediately starts chasing them, and then it's like, it's very clear he's a vampire, because he can teleport, you know what I mean? Like, he's behind them, then he's in front of them, then she's like, okay, he's a vampire. But there's never even some sort of conversation where she has that realization. It's just like, oh, she was skeptical before, now she just flat out sees in the next scene, yeah, he's a vampire. I think you're right, they could have done some... like tension in their relationship of him just like insisting.
Yeah, but I mean, did you not love that scene though when Peter Vincent is like basically, and Amy and Ed are basically obliging Charlie and just doing it for the fun of it, going next door to see that he's, Jerry is just a human. But in fact, obviously we know, and Jerry and Charlie knows that he is actually a vampire. Did you not like that dynamic in that scene, or did you just want that to just resolve itself quickly and just move on with the story? Or I really like that.
So one of the things that I did like about that is I didn't know how he was going to reveal it to his friends. And you do start to feel like, gee, they're going to walk out because, he's already established on the phone that he's going to come do the test. It's not real holy water, is it? And so you're like, oh, shit.
No.
So they do the test. It's a fraud. So you're like, oh, man, you do feel like for Charlie that they're going to do this charade, leave him there, and then he's going to die. And then they do the test. And I kept thinking, I did like how it was done. Because they do the test, and I was thinking, please God, you should have had this water blessed, because I was thinking, maybe that's how they can reveal it. It turns out he did bless the water, whatever. But that doesn't happen. And then he won't let Charlie attack him with a cross. And so I'm like, oh, fuck, So I do like how it builds up. And it's like, he knows, Charlie knows, everybody else is. So I did like that, where I was like genuinely worried for Charlie. And then I love how it resolves itself of like Peter Vincent just taking out his thing just to check his face because he's an incredibly vain man.
Just one last check.
And then seeing that he has no reflection. I was like, wow, that's a really great way, because I was feeling the suspense. So I did really like that scene.
Yeah, I mean, the structure of that's really great because you think it's over, they're just about to leave, so it's just that last moment, that Columbo moment, if you will.
Yeah.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, I did like that, but one of the things I don't get is why, after Peter Vincent left, why the hell did the vampire let Charlie leave? Could have fucking killed him right there and then.
Yeah. I think it's just this arrogance thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
He can kill him whenever he likes to.
Yeah.
Because his main focus then is on Amy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Cross's fending off vampires is not my favourite vampire role, but it's satisfying for Peter Vincent's character, I guess, because when he tries to do it in the first time round against Jerry, Jerry says, you have to have faith for that to work. Then there's a moment where he runs out of the house, abandoning Charlie, has a scuffle with Ed as a wolf, comes back to help Charlie, and then when he uses the cross against Jerry, it works. But I don't know if he had a quick prayer before coming back. I don't know.
Yeah, but I like the second comeback because he's got the cross and you can see it's actually starting to hurt Jerry, but then he's like, you don't have faith. Do you know what I mean? And he's coming towards him, so you're like, oh fuck. But then it starts to work again, and then you see that basically that look of worry from Peter turn into like confidence, like a shot of him just like, no, okay, yeah, no, I do believe this, and then he's stuck in place, and then you see the sun arising. So it's a very triumphant moment.
It's a feel good moment for Peter Vincent in the film, but when you have like Jerry squirming in a strange way, it feels very hammy and weird. And I think it's supposed to be part of the comedy side of the film, but it didn't really work for me. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that vampire role, if I'm honest.
Oh, what aversion to crosses?
It just feels a bit too easy.
Yeah. No, I mean it's like vampire kryptonite. If you can just get your hands on it.
Well, you got garlic and holy water as well. So.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know why we use vampires so much. They're like. There's so much that can kill a fucking vampire. It's not even funny, If you just go around with an LED, I don't know, UV lights all around your shirt, garlic perfume, a couple of steaks and like just crosses everywhere. Just cover yourself in crosses. You should be fine.
I remember in one of the Hammer films where Peter Cushing just picks up 2 sticks and just does that and makes a cross. It's not even an actual cross. It's just 2 sticks stuck, put together. And it's like, what?
Yeah, you could do that with your fingers. You could just be like that.
Yeah.
Just die,
And Christopher Lee is like, oh my God, get away. It's just 2 sticks, dude. It's not an actual cross.
Yeah, I think that's a bit too ridiculous, yeah. I think kind of limiting them to stakes in the heart and sunlight, it makes them a lot more. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you just like, you should just do just about everything to a vampire. They should be fairly easy to kill. Did you ever see that this clip from some sort of Mexican movie called Jacinto the Vampire Killer or something. Did I show you that? Where he's facing a vampire and he holds up a crucifix, and the vampire's like, haha, silly Jacinto, my ancestors were Jewish. And then he goes, okay, so he throws away the crucifix and and raises a swastika. And the guy's like,
oh God, that's really bad. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
We got to do that film. That was so funny.
Really? Oh, I can't remember what I was going to say now. Damn it. That was it. One vampire rule that they do use in this film, but they don't really make it a big thing, a very dramatic moment, is the fact that vampires have to be invited into your home.
Yeah, I love that.
They do that very, very early on in the film, where his mum, we don't even see the scene. His mum invites him in the room, and you kind of see his hand on the big armchair, and then he gets up, and you see him in Charlie's house. That was a cool little scene in terms of acting as well, which I'll talk about. But I feel like that is such an underused rule in vampire movies that is so cool, and I don't think they use it dramatically enough for me. I feel like they should have had that kind of scene near the end, not at the start.
So I like also the usage of that rule when we did the film Let the Right One In, where if a vampire forces her way into a house when they're not invited, you remember that bit where she just starts gushing blood out of her eyes and mouth and shit.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good way of doing it. And even though I haven't watched it, there's was it the Vampire Diaries? Was it the Vampire Diaries? I can't remember what clip it was that I watched it from.
I've not watched it.
Somebody uninvites a vampire from their house, you're not invited in my house. And a force just propels the motherfucker out of the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because he's not allowed to be in there. Yeah.
Then they do that in Buffy at one point, I think.
So there was an episode in Buffy where they do something like that. Yeah, actually with Buffy I think they do that pretty good, because there was an episode where it's for a vampire it's almost like a force field around the house, so they literally cannot enter through the open door.
Was cool.
Yeah,
I liked that first proper encounter Charlie has with Jerry Dandridge in his bedroom, because he could easily kill Charlie if he wanted to. But of course he doesn't want the added attention of another murder right next door to his house, because there's murders being announced on the news and things. So Jerry just wants to scare Charlie by nearly throwing him out the window, pushing him out the window. Charlie is just being annoying really to him. He's spying on him. He has the cops round his house. So Jerry is being very logical really at this point in the film for me. Just scare the kid to leave him alone. But I do question how quietly he does it though. Quietly he does it by throwing Charlie through his wardrobe.
I know. How does his mother, she must be sleeping with pills or something, because he's just getting chucked around. And I thought that was weird that she doesn't address it. When she comes into his room, I had a nightmare. No, and you think, aren't you going to mention the state of his room? Your cupboard is destroyed. The window, oh my God, it's off its fucking, I did think that was a bit weird.
Yeah. But it was a great first encounter though.
Yeah, no, it was a great
showing Jerry's power over Charlie. It's I'm not to be fucked with, boy. I could easily snap you.
Yeah, this is an insurmountable threat. It does up the stakes considerably. You're like, oh my God, if they ever tangoed, he would be dead immediately. Yeah, that was really good. And I told you before, I did like the bit where he gets because he's pushing him down, and then the picture of his girlfriend lands on the spike on the the fence. That was great.
Oh yeah, that was great. Good foreshadowing there.
And he keeps doing that, and then he's I love how Charlie is just trying to grab hold of something, and he's just still going through, and he gets a pencil and jabs it in his hand.
Scratching the wall.
Yeah.
Jerry Dandridge's motivations for going after Amy because she reminds Jerry of his past lover works way better than a previous film we've looked at. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, because in that film they just cast Winona Ryder in both roles from different timelines, so it was all a bit confusing about what was going on in that film. But here we just have a painting that looks a bit like Amy, so it feels quite clear that the woman in the painting is, a completely different character. Amy just looks like her. So Jerry's motivations aren't complicated like they are in Dracula. Just a nice and simple riff on Dracula, which I really appreciated. Nothing complicated. They just look similar. Go from there. It's fine. You don't have to have a big flashback scene like in Bram Stoker's Dracula to confuse the fuck out of you whilst you're watching that film. So I did appreciate that from Tom Holland.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, what was it when he turns her as well? That was intense. Like, you just like, run, bitch, but it's done in a sort of really weird way that it's, it's really romantic and sort of weird. And also that he keeps trying to bite her. Do you know what I mean? And then when he eventually does, I think it's like teasing, and then it's like, full penetration.
Favorite lines, Spaz? What you got?
Oh my God. Favorite lines. You go first. I literally cannot think.
The guy who bought the house has fangs. Fangs, that's lovely. I have to get up at 7 a.m. tomorrow. From his mum. I believe in vampires. That's nice. From Peter Vincent. One of my favorites from Peter Vincent when Amy is in his apartment and he says, "You see, Hollywood beckons. I have just been offered a starring role in a major film. I have even had to quit Fright Night. I'll give you the money." How much?
Oh, yeah, that was good. I think, that was one of the few funny bits. I like, welcome to Fright Night for real. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the other one where actually when the mother invites him in and he was like, oh, yeah, your mother invited me. But you're busy, but, don't worry. I'll drop in any point, Do you know what I mean? Like, and then he's like, with your mother's permission, of course. Do you know what I mean? But I like that how he does that, where he's like, I can just drop in whenever, And you're like, oh my God. I really like the delivery of that.
But I think my favorite line is, "What about Billy Cole? How are you going to stop him?" Peter Vincent gets out a revolver. "I'm going to use this. It's from Orgy of the Damned." I was like, what the hell is that movie? That was hilarious. Yeah. That was one of the laugh out loud moments of the film, for sure. Screenplay score, Bars? What are you going for Fright Night?
Oh, man. I think I'll go like a 7.6.
Ooh, low.
Yeah.
Ish.
It's just like, again, going over it, there are some missed opportunities in comedy, and I don't think the structure is there are some plot points that I would have rearranged and just done differently. So if I can say they should have done this too many times, then I've got to lower it down. But I do think it's excellent. But I think that's mainly the direction. I just think it's really well done. So I think that's a case of a director bumping up a script.
I think certainly, I think we were in agreement that story-wise, like, there are some issues here. I think that it could have been a lot more dramatic. And in that drama, I think that you could have produced way more comedy as well. But I think from a character point of view, there's some great characters here. Like Jerry Dandridge is a great vampire. I really liked him. Billy Cole as well. It's a small role, but you don't really have a handle on him until right when he dies. Which is great because you're pretty convinced he's just a human slave for him throughout the whole thing. But nope.
Yeah, I personally don't like Charlie that much. Like, it's not that I hate him. Oh. It's not that I hate him. I just don't think much of him. Do you know what I mean? He's just the protagonist. I can't like discern any like typical. Do you know? He sees obviously something really weird and is trying to act on it. You know what I mean? And there's a vampire next door. Why wouldn't you try to stop that? But other than that, I don't really see. Other than the fact that him and his girlfriend obviously love each other and stuff. But I just don't think he's very compelling as a character. He's just the protagonist, really. I can't really.
I guess there's not enough quirk to William Ragsdale in his character as Charlie, and I guess because you could argue this is kind of a bit of a high school movie as well, and there's not really a big bracket of where you would put him in one of those stereotypical characters. Like, he's not really a geek type character. Even though he kind of is, like, obsessing over this TV show Fright Night, but like, you wouldn't say he's like the awkward geek who doesn't get any of the girls, because he's got a girlfriend in his bedroom right at the start. So
Yeah, and it's like, other than that, there's really nothing going on with him. It's not, he has no issues with his family, his mother. He's got no issues with friends, bullies. You know, you don't know what the community thinks about him really. He's just some kid. I just don't get a sense that he's a proper character. You know what I mean? It's like, I think if you drop any person, they or anybody, I think they would do, you know, basically what he does. Do you know what I mean? He's not very distinctive. I like the character of Peter Vincent. I like that whole idea of he plays a vampire killer, but obviously he's a fucking actor. You know what I mean? He's got no idea in real life. I like that. I would have probably made him the main character.
Yeah, that could be a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Rather than Charlie. But again, in these types of films, you kind of need your central protagonist to... It's always kind of a boring character in these types of films.
Yeah.
Like your hero protagonist character has to be a bit boring. Well, I don't know, but
yeah. Well, it's the thing. I don't think you have to. It's like say Ferris Bueller. That's a teen. I love Ferris Bueller, and Ferris Bueller is Ferris Bueller. He is just like, there's nobody like him. He is a character. You know what I mean? And there are many things like that.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a vampire trying to kill him, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's say we get in the same sort of genre, like It and Pennywise. All the kids have character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just feel Charlie doesn't have character. He's like in a video game, you know, where you have the sort of the everyman character who's like really boring, and you're meant to. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I just wish he was like more of a character.
There was just more quirkiness to him.
Yeah, just more quirk. Yeah,
with his horror stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like, you know, in my video games, I do like characters who are very distinctive. I love Nathan Drake. I like, you know, Kratos.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just something where I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like, one's angry, one's quippy. You know, just like he has character. I just don't feel Charlie has any character.
Yeah. I feel like he could have had more of a fanboy moment when he meets Peter Vincent for the first time.
Yeah, that would be great.
I feel like when he does that, he's just more in a panic, more in a desperation mode, rather than having like a funny fanboy moment to start off with, and then
So actually, this is one way they could have done it. They could have done it that he's a little bit of a social outcast, and he's obsessed with Fright Night. You don't get the feeling he's obsessed with Fright Night. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, he's maybe a casual fan. In my characterization department, I love the vampire. I love the character of the vampire. I love, you know, Peter, whatever that character, Vincent. I think those are my two favorite characters, really. But yeah, the main character is kind of meh.
I think why I like Charlie more is because I found Evil Ed a bit annoying. I was like, didn't feel much when he died.
He is very annoying.
I was like, meh.
But you know, like the red eyes at the end.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, yeah, his friend is just creepy. It's like, he's not even funny. And I think maybe they were trying to play him as funny. He's just annoying and weird. But yeah, I agree. He was a much better vampire.
Well, he's more annoying than creepy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So my score then, I think I'm going to go with like a 7.9, I think. I guess as well, I feel like you maybe could have produced more comedy with, and just more dramatic stuff with Peter Vincent being in more, I don't know, more ridiculous situations. I don't know. There's a fair bit, but maybe just a little extra with that character in strange situations with this vampire.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Right, acting then. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I loved Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge, the vampire. You have like a few glimpses of him before we meet him properly when he's invited into Charlie's home by his mum, and he has this cheeky coolness to him, like he could be capable of anything. He has like a half smile with dead eyes when he's talking to Charlie. He's not a scary or hammy vampire of what we've used to seeing in vampire films previously in cinema at this point in the 80s. So yeah, that was a great little opening moment for him. I really enjoyed the dynamic between the actors when Amy and Ed hire Peter Vincent, the TV vampire, the vampire killer, to kind of play along with Jerry in his home to convince Charlie that he's not a vampire. But of course we know, and Charlie knows, that Jerry is in fact a vampire, and Jerry knows that Charlie knows that he's a vampire. You know, they're all playing along nicely with Jerry, drinking the the fake holy water. Then Charlie whips out a cross, and Jerry all of a sudden steps back looking worried, and Billy steps forward a bit too, just in case something happens, and looking anxious. But Peter Vincent unknowingly stops Charlie, so it was just a nice little moment from an acting perspective that time kind of stops for a moment between the actors in the know. So I really enjoyed that little moment there.
Yeah, definitely. I also like, when he phone calls Charlie, like after the injury on his hand, and he's like, he's trying to creep him out, and I like, and he drops the receiver and stuff. He's like, "I'll get you tomorrow," Charlie, and stuff like that. And I love that because before he has this like really cool, suave, so he can be really charming and then really menacing, like on top of that.
Oh yeah.
So, and you know what I mean? Like he can just sort of play it off almost seamlessly, go from like this guy is charming and somewhat mysterious and romantic to like this is he's really threatening and stuff. And I think he can just go between emotions really well, from the campy to the serious to the sexual. And I do like the phone bit because he's been like the way he sort of treats Charlie in his bedroom is like this is an annoyance. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of, and it feels like he's been through this so many times. It's like, dude, listen, you're just kind of bugging me out right now. Could you just piss me out? Just piss off.
Just leave me alone.
But then I like the phone call because then it's more like, after Charlie stabbed him in the hand and he's like, okay, this is serious, but he's treating it like this is fun. Do you know what I mean? Like it's turned from an annoyance to, man, I'm going to look forward to killing you. Yeah. I'm going to look so forward to killing you. And I quite like that. I just like that sort of,
But this is probably my favorite scene. I really loved the sexy dance scene in the nightclub between Chris Sarandon, Jerry Dandridge, and Amanda Bursey, who plays Amy. At the start, like Tom Holland does some cool directing where they share eye contact through the crowd and Jerry slowly comes through the crowd. Then suddenly Jerry's right there in front of Amy. And for me, you're never entirely convinced Amy believes Charlie that Jerry is a vampire at this point. So it adds to their steamy chemistry. Then on the dance floor, you're not quite sure if Amy is in some sort of trance or really into it. Then she falls on the floor and comes back up and Jerry's smiling. Then there's some really sharp like neck moves and you think Jerry is going to bite her. Then she snaps her head back up like, no, you're not in charge now. And she opens up her shirt wider, then slowly kisses him on the chest. And then she goes in down to his crotch and then snaps back up again.
Dude, you're making me hard.
Man, it's sexy as hell. Yeah, it's that good, man. Their chemistry in that scene is off the fucking chain.
Yeah, man, it was good.
Then she almost snaps out of it when she can't see him in the reflection, but my God. Whoo.
Yeah, that was sexy as hell.
What a scene. That is by far the best scene, man.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Great music in this film as well, especially in that scene.
And that was really badass because Charlie is like, like get away from my girlfriend, and he goes to punch him, and I like how he's not even fucking looking at his hand. It's like, boom.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna smooch your girlfriend while I'm just like blocking your fist. It's like, fuck off.
Favorite performance, Bowers? Who you going for?
Oh yeah, the guy that does the vampire. I can never remember his name, but yeah, that guy,
Chris Sarandon.
Yeah, man, he is so good. He is so good. Yeah, to me, he just makes the movie.
Well, Tom Holland made the movie, but
yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like if you had a shit vampire, somebody else played him, I just don't think it would be like anywhere near as good. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, I don't really like the main character, so yeah, it would just fall flat. But I just think I'm there for the vampire, and he's amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to go with Amanda Bursey as Amy. I think she's fucking brilliant in this film.
Yeah, she's really good. Especially like how different she is, at the beginning to, when she's a vampire and then also when she's flirting with the vampire and stuff like that. Yeah, she's very different in those scenes. So that's on point as well.
Yeah, she's great as the vampire at the end with a massive grin on her face. As I said, like she definitely brought a massive chill down my spine. I was like, oh my God. That was awesome.
Yeah. And also when she's trying to seduce Charlie at the end, before that, where I'm just like, my God, this is like a completely different woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Acting score, Bowers, what are you going for Fright Night? I think this is the strongest part of the film.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I'll go 8.9. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll go the same, actually, 8.9. I think it's really, really great. Right, let's add up the scores then for Fright Night.
What else is that guy in? Because he looks so familiar. It's pissing me off because he looks... I've seen him in something. Oh, he's in The Princess Bride. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome, okay. Yeah, he's Humperdinck. I remember now. You watched that?
He's the bad guy in that.
Yeah, he's the bad guy, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Fright Night gets 50.8. So Fright Night wins this one then from Army of Darkness. Yeah, very, very close, I think. On a different day, maybe Army of Darkness might have won.
Yeah.
So next episode, as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is out in cinemas, we'll be talking threequels. We've kind of done one already in Army of Darkness, but we'll be officially doing a threequels episode for next time, and hopefully have guests for this one from the Take 97 podcast. So that should be a lot of fun with that one, with some interesting choices. And it's time to say goodbye to the Mr. Encyclopedia Man. Stay groovy, man. Stay groovy, man. Stay
groovy, yeah. All hail to the king, baby.
Yeah. Bye-bye. That's it for part 2. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off. Thank you.